episode of The Skate Escape. I am your host, Malcolm Watson. This week I came across a few podcasts, and most recently a YouTube video of P-Rod and Mikey Taylor, and they were having a discussion about no money in professional skateboarding and how pros don't make any money these days. And it's a recurring theme on the Nine Club of every guest that they have on the show. They ask them, about their sponsors and what they do to maintain. And so many of these guys, they bring up the fact that they're working 2 and 3 jobs outside of skateboarding just to maintain. And whether it be modeling, walking the runway, or getting paid to do Instagram posts, or just working the gig economy, or flat out other jobs. Guys have multiple jobs, but yet consider themselves professional skateboarding. And so it got me to wondering, where is all the money going? And I did some Google searches and came up with this data that's on various sites, but the numbers remain the same, that in the year 2022, skateboarding worldwide grossed $3.22 billion. And that number was up from previous years, to 2022 grossing $3.22 billion globally. And according to that data, because skateboarding is now in the Olympics, it's expected to grow by 3.5% by the year 2027 to gross even more money. And so I can't help but think, where on earth has all the money gone? And it's obvious, that it's going to the owners, and I won't say shareholders, but the owners of these companies. And right now we're in a space where I can almost pinpoint when the cancer grew in skateboarding and the brainwashing took place, to where you had companies that decided that, hey, I could run a company and not pay you guys a regular guaranteed monthly salary. It used to be back as recent as the early 2000s, where if you were a professional skateboarder, you got paid. And even at that point, you had amateurs that were making money, guaranteed monthly checks to be AM. And it just meant once you turned pro, that number increased. You got raises ultimately, and maybe picked up 1 or 2 new sponsors. And so fast forward, skateboarding went from having a guaranteed monthly paycheck to the point where around, we'll just say 2004 or 5, we entered a point where brand owners were able to approach skateboarders and say, hey, we want to turn you pro, but we can't afford to pay you a monthly check. And so we'll just give you royalties. We'll just pay you royalties off of your board sales, whether it's $1 a board, $2 a board. And it worked. For some reason, that set the standard. Once a number of guys said yes to that, the bottom market of having guaranteed monthly paychecks just bottomed out, and companies realized, hey, I could save all that money on the back end from paying this guy $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $1,500 a month, what have you, to just giving you strictly board royalties. And even on that end, so many of these brands were still shorting the riders, not paying them the amount that they guaranteed them off of board sales. Much like having a job that says you keep 100% of your tips, and at the end of the night you realize they're taking a little bit off the top. That's what happened in skateboarding, but dangerously, it set the standard to where the money that used to come to riders went to the owners of these companies and every place else but the actual riders. That was cancer number 1. Number 2 was the fact that in the early 2000s began the creation of skate shops making their own boards, logo boards. And that definitely kneecapped the game. We went from, you would walk in a skate shop and the wall would be full of pro models, to around 2003 or 4, you walk in the skate shop and they would have their own full designated wall of shop boards with different logos on it, geared around the skate shop. And not only, if that wasn't bad enough, they would sell the shop boards for cheaper than the pro models. And so month by month, you would see less and less pro models on the wall. You would open up the magazine and see less and less companies, to all of a sudden every single shop wanted to be a brand. They all had grandiose visions of being the next Supreme, of being their own brand, but at the same time talking about supporting skateboarding and supporting skater-owned, skater-operated brands. But it kneecapped skateboarding, if you will. It prevented skateboarding from growing and having more pros, to where now kids would walk in the shop, they would get sold a pro board, even if they didn't know about skateboarding. They would get sold a shop logo board, and everywhere you look around, from every shop, whether it was Active in California or Pharmacy, or even Homage in New York, you would walk in these shops, and all around the neighborhood, you would see people riding that shop board. So new kids that were just getting introduced to skateboarding, that was their first skateboard. And as they age out of skateboarding, chances are they might ride one or two other company boards, and then they were off to the races, just doing whatever else they do in life. But the domino effect of that was that it kneecapped the core skate brands, to where now more and more companies had to compete against the skate shops, and at the same time depend on skate shops for their own survival, because the direct-to-consumer model hadn't been created yet. And so that definitely kneecapped skateboarding. And one thing that shops and shop owners don't realize is that they control cool. They control what exists and what doesn't exist in skateboarding. Not so much these days in this direct-to-consumer market, where you can just go directly to, let's just say, Primitive Skateboards or April or Girl or Chocolate, and buy directly from them without the middleman. But at that point in time, when you come to a skate shop, it's up to the person at the shop, for that newcomer that is just getting their first skateboard, that doesn't know anything about skateboarding. It's up to that person behind the counter to say, okay, you just starting out. All right, well, this brand right here is the best. You want to ride this over here. You want to put these Thunder trucks on it. You might want to grab you, if you have an endless budget, grab you some Indies, grab you some Spitfires, throw some Swiss bearings in there, or some Reds. You know, it's that shop owner. Ultimately, my point is that they control what exists and what doesn't exist. And for other brands that they may not favor, for one, they may not carry it in the shop, but number two, they won't even push it to try and sell it. And so we looked at a shift in skateboarding, to where shops went from pushing brands to actually saying, hey, just grab one of our boards. And the curse was the fact that the pro board would be on the wall for $50, and they would sell the shop board for $25. And on various days of the week, it might be $20 with a free sheet of grip tape. So no one stands a chance to compete with that type of bottom line. And slowly but surely, the brands start to fade, and we revert back to brands just being DIY in the garage. But at the same time, you're dealing with the battle of not getting paid a guaranteed monthly check. And so it's mind-boggling, but at the same time, I get it, because you have so many guys right now in skateboarding that are so hungry, no matter the age, they're so hungry to have their name on a skateboard that they don't even care about getting paid. They'll tell the owner, yeah, don't pay me. I just want to be pro. And I don't understand. Maybe you guys could explain it to me. Being professional means getting paid. But right now, skateboarding is one of the few sports that you could excel in and not be successful. What I mean by that is you could perform at an elite level in skateboarding and still not be successful in skateboarding, not have a single sponsor. I look at guys like Mickey Papa, who has struggled to get a shoe sponsor. Borderline doesn't even have a board sponsor, no truck sponsor, basically nothing, but he's light years ahead in skateboarding. He's amazing, phenomenal. Guys like Ronnie Kreger, who still skate at a very high level. Guys like Chris Haslam, Rodrigo TX. These guys are all still at the top of their game, phenomenal skateboarders, but yet they lack sponsors. They're just doing it ultimately for the love of skateboarding and selling boards direct to consumer, trying to survive. And I'm not sure, I don't know many people that will wake up and go to work for free, much less Imagine you have an employer, and I use the word employer loosely because employee symbolizes some sort of pay exchange, but I don't imagine too many people who would wake up and go to a job and put in 8 hours, 12 hours of labor that includes jumping down flights of stairs, documenting what you did throughout the day, and giving it to the owner for free. Much less sticking around to work overtime knowing that you're not even going to get gas money at the end of the day to put in your car, and we expect you to show back up tomorrow and put in another 8 hours. And skateboarding is one of those industries where they can exploit, and you have more than enough people that are willing to show up and do every single thing asked of them for free, and that just opens up the door for exploitation. And this industry that can gross $3.22 billion in a single year, but yet most of these pros are living check to check, collecting whatever social assistance they can just to survive. And that has to change, but I know it's next to impossible to get people to unite and come together, because there's so many people, as I mentioned, that are just happy to be here, that are just happy to be in a van or have their name on a board at any cost, that they couldn't fathom coming together and actually taking the industry back and changing things. Instead, they'll continue to just make videos and say there's no money in it, while they're a part of the problem. Because the skateboarders run skateboarding at this day and age. There would be no street league without competitors or people to actually participate in it. You would have no magazines if guys said, yeah, I don't want to shoot any photos, I'm gonna just post it on my Instagram and shoot it with my iPhone. The last standing magazine would cease to exist, and all these brands, I wouldn't say that they would go out of business, because at the end of the day, skateboards sell themselves, and it doesn't take much to just slap some art on a shape and get it sold. But if you want to do it at the level where we can continue to see this sport grow and see the next wave of greatness on skateboards, some drastic things have to change. And right now, I know we're not there yet, but if not now, when? So we'll see what happens in the years to come. But we can't continue this trend of just accepting the fact that skateboarding is making as much money as it is globally, and riders are simply settling for getting regular jobs. That can't continue. And lastly, we have to get rid of this marketing scheme or strategy of skateboarding doesn't owe you anything. At the end of the day, it's a business, a multi-billion-dollar grossing business, and riders should be taken care of. If anything, medical insurance and a proper wage. Anything less than that, don't even have a brand. Don't do people a disservice of putting their name on a skateboard, but you can't guarantee them a monthly check. You can't even buy them a plane ticket to get to Tampa. You can't pay for a hotel room. You can't give them per diem, and you won't even put them in a rental car. You'll just tell them to take an Uber and Lyft, but yet you demand them to ride your board and enter the contest when they paid for it on their own dime. Guys, you have to accept more, expect more, and demand more for your services and your talent. Don't waste your time and hold these companies to a higher standard. That's my spiel. Once again, thank you for joining me on the Skate Escape. Until next time, you guys know what to do. Be safe out there. Be focused. Keep them wheels rolling. Peace.